Sagathakam. According to the translator, D.T. Suzuki, this section, which comes after the last and 9th chapter of the Lankavatara Sutra, consists entirely of verses. He says in a footnote that it is probable that it was added later to the text. The subjects treated are many and varied, including those that have never appeared in the text. The verses are in a most confused condition, and it is frequently quite difficult to disentangle them and give them a semblance of order. The reader may use his or her own judgment in the matter. After the title, and prior to Mahamate reciting the list of verses, there is a verse that serves as a sort of preface. It goes, "Listen to the wonderful Mahayana doctrine declared in this Lankavatara Sutra, composed into verse gems, and destroying a net of the philosophical views." At that time, Mahamati, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said this to the Blessed One. Verse 1. From Chapter 2, Verse 1. As thou reviewest the world with thy transcendental knowledge and compassion, it is to thee like an ethereal flower, of which one cannot say whether it is born or destroyed, as the category of being and non-being is inapplicable to it. Verse 2, from Chapter 2, Verse 3. As thou reviewest the world with thy transcendental knowledge and compassion, it is to thee always like a dream, of which one cannot say whether it is permanent or destructible, as the category of being and non-being is inapplicable to it. Verse 3, from Chapter 2, Verse 2. As thou reviewest all things with thy transcendental knowledge and compassion, they are to thee like visions. They are beyond the reach of intellectual grasp, as the category of being and non-being is inapplicable to them. Verse 4, from Chapter 2, Verse 6. With thy transcendental knowledge and compassion, which are above form, thou comprehendest the egolessness of things and persons, and art thyself always clean and free from the hindrance of passion and knowledge. Verse 5, from Chapter 2, Verse 7. Thou dost not vanish in nirvana, nor is nirvana abiding in thee, for it transcends the duality of knowing and known, and of being and non-being. Verse 6, from Chapter 2, Verse 8. Those who see the Muni so serene and beyond birth and death will be cleansed of attachment, stainless both in this world and in the other. Verse 7, from Chapter 2, Verse 151. Like a mirage in the springtime, the mind is found bewildered. Animals imagine water, but there is no reality to it. Verse 8, from Chapter 2, Verse 152. Thus, the Vijnana seed is evolved, and the world comes into view. The ignorant imagine it is born, just like the dim-eyed ones perceive things in the darkness. Verse 9, from Chapter 2, Verse 178. The dhyana practicer, the dhyana, the subject for it, the destruction, the seeing of the truth, these are no more than discriminations. When this is recognized, there is emancipation. Verse 10. These individual objects are not solid realities. They rise because of imagination. As the imagination itself is empty, what is imagined is empty. Verse 11, from Chapter 2, Verse 149. The skandhas, of which the Vijnana is the fifth, resemble the reflection of the trees in water. They are to be regarded as Maya and a dream. They are so by thought construction. Make no discriminations. Verse 12, from Chapter 2, Verse 154. by regarding the world as always like a magically moving corpse, or a machine, or like a dream, or a lightning, or a cloud. The triple continuation is torn asunder, and one is emancipated. Verse 13. By wrong discrimination, the Vijnana system rises, severally as eightfold, as ninefold, like waves on the great ocean. Verse 14. The root is constantly nourished by habit energy, firmly attached to the seat. The mind moves along with an objective world as iron is drawn by the lodestone. Verse 15. The original source on which all sentient beings are dependent is beyond theorization. All doings cease and emancipation obtains. Knowing and known are transcended. Verse 16. In the samadhi known as Maya-like, one goes beyond the 10 stages of bodhisattvaship. One who is removed from thought and knowledge perceives the Mind King. Verse 17. When a turning back takes place in the mind, one abides permanently in the palace of lotus form, which is born of the realm of Maya. Verse 18. Abiding in it, one attains a life of imagelessness, and, like a many-colored jewel, performs religious deeds for all beings. Verse 19. Except for discrimination, there is neither samskrita, or things made, or asamskrita, or things not made. The ignorant hold on to them as a barren woman does to the child of her dream. What fools they are! Verse 20. Let it be known that without self-nature, unborn and empty are a personal soul, the skandha continuity, causation, the dhatus, and the notion of existence and non-existence. Verse 21. To me, teaching is an expedient, but I do not teach external signs. The ignorant, because of their attachment to existence, seize on signified and signifying. Verse 22. A knower of all things is not an all-knower, and all is not within all. The ignorant discriminate and think, I am the enlightened one in the world. But I am not enlightened, nor do I enlighten others. Verse 23, from chapter 2, verse 156. Here is nothing but thought construction and name. You seek in vain for individual signs. The skandhas are like a hairnet wherein discrimination goes on. Verse 24, from chapter 2, verse 143 and the first half of 144. Not ever being in existence, what things are there that are born? But in causation, nothing is lost. When effect-producing objects, or samskrita, are regarded as like unto a barren woman's child, or a flower in the sky, one perceives that grasping, or subject, and grasped, or object, are an error, and desists from committing the same error. There is nothing that is to be born, nor is there anything that has been born. Verse 25, from chapter 2, verse 179. I enter not into nirvana by means of being, by work of individual signs. I enter into nirvana when the vijnana which is caused by discrimination ceases. Verse 26, from chapter 2, verse 181. Like a great flood where no waves are stirred, because of its being dried up, the vijnana system in its various forms ceases to work when there is the annihilation of the monovijnana. Verse 27. These things are empty, without self-nature, and unborn, like Maya, like a dream, and their being and non-being is unobtainable. Verse 28. One self-nature or svabhava, I teach, which is removed from speculation and thought construction, which belongs to the exquisite spiritual realm of the wise, removed from the two svabhavas, that is, parikalpita and the paratantra. Verse 29. Though multitudinousness of things has no real existence as such, they appear to the intoxicated as like fireflies because of their constitutional disturbance. Likewise is the world essentially appearance. Verse 30. As Maya is manifested depending on grass, wood, and brick, though Maya itself is non-existent, so are all things essentially mere appearances. Verse 31. There is neither seizing nor seized, neither bound nor binding. All is like Maya, like a mirage, like a dream, like an affected eye. Verse 32. When the truth seeker sees the truth, devoid of discrimination and free from impurities, then he is accomplished in his contemplation. He sees me, there is no doubt.